Good morning. So once again, my name is Reverend Greta Seidohl, and I currently call Grand Rapids, Michigan home. And I serve at Meadville Lombard Theological School on the admissions team, and where I have the honor and privilege of talking to and working with them in their discernment, the next generation of liberal religious leaders and UU ministers. And I do that half time, and then the other half of the time I do what most of us call community ministry, which basically means plugging into places that need the toolkit that ministry brings outside of the walls of a congregation. And it is a joy and an honor to be here with you this morning, so thank you for having me. I hear that you have been wrestling and playing with this theme of life and the sources of life and what sustain us. And when I hear that phrase, I think of the times that I pray, the names that I list, the titles that I give. I said some of them earlier: Spirit of life, source of love, ground of our being. There's a really long, lovely list, and all of our lists are a little bit different usually, right? But I think there's another word that can and should be added to that list that both grounds and empowers us and our faith. It's a title, a name. I think it's a word that comes with a lot of instructions and a lot of challenge. Love. It's 4 little letters that get annoyingly complicated really fast. Now, I'm talking about capital L love. I'm not talking about the kind that gets plastered on cars and storefront windows during the month of February. I'm talking about the kind that Dr. Cornel West points to when he says justice is what love looks like in public. Or what Jackie Lewis of Middle Church in New York City says when she invites centering around what would love have us do. I'm talking about the kind of love that is present at the center of the Article 2 Study Commission within Unitarian Universalism, that is asking and calling our faith to embrace love as the center of our living tradition. When I first read the Article 2 study draft, I have to admit to you, I jumped for joy and squeaked, which anybody that knows me does not find that a particularly surprising response. I'm what many would call an early adopter. But in addition to that, reading that love at the center, surrounded by these other things that call love into action, felt like a naming and a recognition of something that was already and always true. It felt like coming home again to Unitarian Universalism. Of course, love is at the center of who we do, who we are, and what we do, and how we believe. The question I kept asking instead was, okay, that's great, but what does that mean? What do we do with that? How have we been practicing it, and how can we practice it better? Placing love at the center of Unitarian Universalism, I think, is something that Unitarians and Universalists have strived for centuries. It surely means self-love, self-acceptance. It means using love in how we relate to one another. But today I'd like to talk about what love at the center means beyond the walls of our homes, our congregations, and our beings. What it looks like in public. What the source of love calls us, but I also believe empowers us to do. So, like most good things, especially in Unitarian Universalism, that starts by asking some good questions. What does love look like when we liberate it from the idea that it is a finite resource to be metered out to a select few who have somehow earned our favor? What happens when we make liberating love both communal and cultural? What happens when the way we live our faith, above all else, is the embodiment and practice of love? Okay, there are a lot of things that happen if we do all of those things. And we'd have to have about 100 sermons and forums and discussion groups to cover all of that. So we're just going to pick one for now. The answer that rises to the top for me, quickly though not easily, is again from Dr. Cornel West, this American philosopher and political activist who famously said, "Justice is what love looks like in public." What love looks like in public. It's a simple yet complex answer and a lifetime of challenges. The challenge is echoed by beloved author and activist Bell Hooks, who said that without love, there can be no justice. Love and justice are inextricably linked. But for many of us, socialized in white Western normative culture with English as our primary language, it can be hard to release love from what it was taught as a private matter, meant to be contained by relationship and spoken of in hushed tones between kisses. It's an altogether different challenge to live a faith out loud. Otis Moss III is a Black theologian and pastor at Chicago's Trinity United Church of Christ. Recently published this great book. I'm going to give you the whole long title so that you can look it up later. Dancing in the Darkness, Spiritual Lessons for Thriving in Turbulent Times. And he speaks to the restrictions that love has experienced in our modern world. Quote, "Part of the difficulty is this strange four-letter word, love. We are unable to combine love and justice because we have forgotten what love means. Like so much in our despiritualized society, we have forgotten love's spiritual foundation. When we say love, we often mean only emotion, romance, physicality, fleshiness." End quote. He goes on to pull all these different strings together, the three different Greek words for kinds of love, referencing Thich Nhat Hanh's exploration of the forms of love in Buddhist theology, explaining Yoruba ethics tradition that includes love, the central tenet of Jesus's life being, as he describes it, a love ethic. He uses these to demonstrate an expansive and liberatory spiritual foundation for transformation that isn't new. But it does need to be renewed to answer the struggles of our modern world. For years, civil rights leader, lawyer, filmmaker, educator, Sikh American, mother, woman warrior, can you tell I like her? Valerie Kaur has been promoting the message that revolutionary love is the call of our times. In her TED Talk, she argues that we must reclaim love as a public ethic. A public ethic as the antidote to rising nationalism, polarization, and hate in the US and around the globe. Quote, "When we pour love in three directions, towards others, towards opponents, and towards ourselves, then love becomes revolutionary." I want that kind of love. Seriously, I want that kind of bold, italicized, underlined, all caps kind of LOVE love. Those kind of descriptions, they make my skin shiver and give me goosebumps. I can't help but smile because it sounds and feels like liberation. That love feels big enough to hold me and you and us and them. not without complications and complexities, but because of the complications and complexities that come with being human in this world. How does it feel in your body? I'm serious. I'm going to stop talking and I want you to pay attention to your body. I said it feels like liberation for me. And that gives my body movement. It gives my body ease. As much as I believe that it feels like liberation, I also know it sounds like work. It sounds like work. It sounds like bold, italicized, underlined, all caps kind of W-O-R-K work. It's work because our culture, the culture that we have inherited, wants to pull love and justice apart. West, Hooks, Moss, Cower, and many others tell us something that we know is true. I watched your heads as I read those quotes. You all nodded. We know it's true. But the forces of oppression, of isolation, separate us, separate those aspects of our culture, continually trying to pull them apart. Because if they can separate love and justice, both are ineffectual. Both won't work. Again, from Otis Moss III, but the danger of love without justice is that it becomes sentimental, even appeasing. Love without justice would have taken no lasting action, brought no change. But justice without love can become ruthless. An eye for an eye. That kind of justice risks continuing a cycle of hatred and reprisal that will tear down communities. Justice without love destroys. In the context of this gathering and our collective becoming as Unitarian Universalists and beyond, I want to add another pairing. What does religion or faith, pick the word that works for you, what does religion look like without love? I actually think we know the answer to that. I think we've seen it and have experienced it throughout history. Religion without love is a tool of oppression, of colonization, of dehumanization. Religion without love is laws without jurisdiction and ethics with no compass. This is a reality that too many have and are experiencing. And so as we gather in religious community, it is a spiritual imperative that we call in and center capital L love. Because religion with love, religion with love is a source of liberation. Reverend John Dietrich, who was among the first Unitarian ministers to boldly preach humanist thinking as a foundation for religious liberalism, said, quote, "Our chief business, therefore, is to put beauty in the place of ugliness, good in place of evil, laughter in place of tears, to dispel error with knowledge, hatred with love, displace strife and contention with peace and cooperation. And somehow within us is a voice which urgently calls us to these tasks. It is the life urge. It is the aspiration after better things. It is human at its best and bravest. It is what many call divine. Some even call it God. In any case, it is religion." Okay, so we have to do the reverse. Love without religion or faith? I'm a minister, so we know we would like religion a little bit, right? So I wasn't going to give love a pass on having it. Can I just cite Valentine's Day and be done? Can we just like take the month of February and go don't do that. Love without faith or religion becomes trapped in commercialism. It loses its spiritual foundation, as Moss names. It's lacking in structure, in togetherness, in accountability, in meaningful ritual. Because we need one another, and so do the various values that we hold. There's a song in our hymnal that gets stuck in my head very regularly in these times. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. Now it can be stuck in your head for the week. If we are to be a justice-seeking people singing for our lives, then every action, every note, every thought must be imbued with the revolutionary and transformative power of both liberating and liberated love. It is a kind of work that needs not just megaphones, but music. Protesters and potluck hosters, whistleblowers and wise ones, honoring children and change makers and more. It means organizing protests, partnerships, politicians, absolutely. But it also means organizing care and comfort, creating mutuality and upholding dignity. It needs us all. It needs all our ways of being and acting in the world. And by that, I mean that the convergence of love and justice, it's not a moment that is somehow reserved for protests with signs and shoutings, although it happens there too, don't get me wrong, I love that. Instead, it is an alchemy. It is an alchemy of love and justice that infuses all we do. It transforms us as we transform our relationships so that we might together transform the world we live in. So we must be willing to love out loud every day, more boldly, more loudly, despite the million answers to a million questions. I'm not always sure how we start, but I know it starts with practice. So we're going to practice, and I mean right now, before the sermon's technically done. Pay attention. If you want to, you can stand up. If you're at home, get your keys on a keyboard, that sort of thing. I want you to be loud with me. Can you do it? I bet you can do it. Okay, we're literally going to yell. I'm not kidding. You think I'm being metaphorical. I'm not being metaphorical. We are going to yell. We're going to be loud, and it's going to feel silly, and it might even feel uncomfortable, but we are not called to comfort without a little discomfort in these times. If it would help you to stand up, you can do that. So on the count of 3, I want you to yell love as loud as you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Love. Okay, if you're at home, that better be an all caps chat happening in the Zoom right now. We're gonna do it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Love. Okay, this time you're gonna yell justice. 1, 2, 3. Justice. See, protest energy is great. Okay, now, which one of those didn't come out of your mouth quite as easy? Which one got caught in there a little bit and maybe wasn't quite as loud, or maybe made you hesitate, okay? Whichever one it is, pick that one. Some of you are gonna pick one, some of you are gonna pick the other. That's okay, that's the point. Ready? Say that one. 1, 2, 3. Justice. The other one. 1, 2, 3. Love. The other one. 1, 2, 3. Justice. Feel it. You got lungs, you used them. Now say it quietly. Whisper it. Whisper it so quietly that it becomes a hum in your whole head. Keep saying it. I can talk over you. There you go. I can hear it a little bit. Justice, love, justice, love. Say it so quietly that it just becomes a hum in your head, that it becomes imbued in the rhythm of your heart. Let it settle into your bones. Back in 2018, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Bentenkorp, who's now president of the UUA, quoted, "A universalist theology of liberation for the present day centers our capacity to be sanctuaries of radical truth-telling and abundant compassion, so that an all-embracing love at the center of our tradition can serve to make all of us more whole." To make all of us more whole. Because that is what liberation looks like. That's what justice looks like in the daily. It looks like wholeness. It looks like belovedness. And that is what we are made for. What Unitarian Universalism calls us to live into more fully. Living our faith out loud, bringing love and justice intertwined into every moment and every relationship. A love-centered UUism looks like love out loud. It feels like the divine alchemy of love and justice intertwined in minutia, as well as miracles. Because for justice to roll down like water, droplets of love must first gather. And the melody of rainfall is sweet, sweet music, friends. So make it rain, beloveds. Let it rain love and let it rain justice in our hearts, in our bodies, in our voices. May it be so.